Hunter Biden could be charged for tax and gun crimes. An election software company stored data on servers in China. And Elon Musk decides he wants to buy Twitter after all. That and more on this week's headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Hunter Biden, son of President Joe Biden, is under investigation by federal agents for alleged tax crimes and lying during a gun purchase. The Washington Post article says that Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss, a Trump appointee, must decide whether to charge Hunter Biden. In other words, this case has nothing to do with what Hunter Biden may or may not have done. It's all about politics. If Biden is charged, it must be a political move by Donald Trump. Still, this investigation into Hunter Biden's personal taxes and gun purchases may look bad, but there's another possibly much more serious matter that so far is not under investigation as far as I know. Hunter Biden's shady deals with the Ukrainian gas company and a Chinese investment company. They directly involve him making money using his connections with his father, who was vice president at the time. And according to an accusation from a former business partner, Hunter may have even set aside some of that shady money for his father, although that's unconfirmed. But if the focus of federal prosecution is only on the tax and gun stuff, who knows whether any more serious allegations will be investigated. And when the media brings up how the U.S. attorney in charge in this case is a Trump appointee, it's suggesting that even these tax and gun charges might just be political. But what I think, it's just an excuse to mention Donald Trump, which this article does 16 times. And nothing makes a news story more clickable like randomly talking about Trump. Why? It's why I'm bringing it up right now. The House and the Senate passed an interim funding bill that will keep the government funded through mid-December. And President Biden signed the bill 11 hours before a government shutdown occurred. Did they wait until the last minute to make this more dramatic? Kind of like when someone's defusing a bomb and wants the clock to reach 1 second remaining for maximum suspense. Well, maybe this would have been more dramatic if the government wasn't always on the verge of a shutdown, multiple times a year, every year. They're living month to month, constantly on the verge of financial collapse, and have no idea if they're ever going to be financially secure. Man, who knew the government was so relatable? Did the government also get a master's degree in classical music composition and has to constantly hear its dad remind them that they wouldn't need to be on the family cell phone plan if it just majored in business like he suggested? Don't worry about why that's so specific. So now the U.S. government is funded. U.S. senators are going to be hard at work making sure that this sort of thing won't happen again. Just kidding. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced the Senate wouldn't return to vote in Washington, D.C. until November 14th to give senators a chance to campaign leading up to the November midterm elections. So in order to try and convince people to let them keep their jobs, they're going to stop doing their jobs. Great sales pitch. But Schumer suggested that they'll be hard at work once they return, saying members should be prepared for an extremely, underline extremely, busy agenda in the last 2 months of this Congress. So they're putting off a bunch of responsibilities and saying they'll work harder later on to get it all done. Man, I had no idea I was qualified to be a senator. And after the break, an election software company stored data on servers in China. Welcome back. This week, the CEO of a company that makes software for scheduling poll workers was arrested on suspicion of storing that poll worker data in China. This came as a surprise because just last month, that company, Konik, and its CEO, Eugene Yu, claimed that they were the target of a smear campaign led by conspiracy theorists who accused them of holding data in China. See, Konik had earlier filed a lawsuit against the controversial nonprofit True the Vote, which said it had seen evidence of Konik data on servers in China and suggested Konik was part of a red Chinese communist op run against the United States. Well, so far the truth seems to be somewhere in the middle. According to the LA County District Attorney, which is bringing the charges, storing data in China was a direct violation of Connick's contract with LA County. But according to LA County, that data was only data about poll workers and their schedules. It wasn't actually related to voter fraud. The charges don't seem to involve the Chinese Communist Party. And as we know, the 2020 election was the most secure election in history. Last week, more than 87,000 pounds of meat from Berman Meat and Processing were recalled in Illinois, Kentucky, and Missouri due to Listeria bacteria contamination. And this week, Old Europe Cheese Inc. issued a recall on its products nationwide over Listeria concerns. This recall affects their Brie and Camembert cheeses. Of course, if you're regularly eating Brie and Camembert cheeses, you might already suffer from something more serious than listeriosis, being terminally pretentious, or just French. You think you're better than me just because you spread your cheeses and actually know how to spell charcuterie? Well, enjoy the listeria, suckers. I'll be over here eating cheese the way God intended. Straight out of the bag. Speaking of judging people, the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is back in session this week after being in recess from the end of June until the first week of October. After 3 months off, what did they get up to? Whatever they felt like. The Supreme Court justices declined to take up most cases presented before them, including 2 cases from gun rights advocates. Those cases were challenging a bump stock ban issued by the Trump administration in 2019. They also declined to hear a case from 10 mostly Republican-governed states that challenged President Biden's COVID vaccine mandate for healthcare workers in establishments that receive federal funding. And they turned down a case challenging Pennsylvania's electoral map. So they rejected just about everyone who came to them after being gone for 3 months. Well, the Supreme Court is just like that one kid in high school who got hot over the summer. They probably just wish everyone liked them for their personality. The Supreme Court also declined to hear a case from Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. He's trying to appeal a defamation lawsuit brought against him by Dominion Voting Systems. Dominion is suing Lindell over his claims that their voting machines rigged the 2020 presidential election in Joe Biden's favor. According to Dominion's lawsuit, Lindell, a talented salesman and former professional card counter, sells the lie to this day because the lie sells pillows. The lie sells pillows. I hate how divided the U.S. is as a nation. The people won't even buy a pillow without agreeing politically with the people who sell it. What next? Hey honey, I'm gonna go to Target to get a new vacuum cleaner. Okay, sweetie, make sure to get the pro-choice vacuum. Lindell brought this case before the Supreme Court, hoping they would dismiss the lawsuit before it went to trial. His main defense was that Dominion couldn't prove that he knew what he was saying was false or that he lied intentionally. With this rejection, Dominion will now attempt to sue the MyPillow CEO for $1.3 billion. Sounds stressful, but on the plus side, he can now promote a brand new use for his pillow, muffling his screams of anguish. And after the break, Donald Trump sues CNN. Welcome back. Former President Donald Trump has filed a defamation lawsuit against CNN and is seeking $475 million in damages.
CNN has undertaken a smear campaign to malign the plaintiff with a barrage of negative associations and innuendos, broadcasting commentary that he is like a cult leader, a Russian lackey, a dog whistler to white supremacists. It goes on to say, and a racist. It is the stuff of tabloids cloaked as honored news.
In response, CNN said, "We're being sued by literal Hitler." Can't imagine why they're being sued for defamation. That joke actually isn't that much of an exaggeration. Trump's lawsuit says that CNN calling his claims that he won the 2020 election the big lie is meant to evoke Hitler's big lie, which he wrote about in his book Mein Kampf. Trump's lawyers said it is wanton and malicious reporting intended to feed a narrative and to achieve a desired end, to cause readers and viewers to associate the plaintiff with the lowest of low, to fear him, to not vote for him, and to support campaigns against him. The lawsuit also alleges that CNN has increased the frequency of their attacks against Trump in recent months for fear that he may once again run for president. Wait, they think CNN is afraid of Trump running? Are you kidding? They're praying he does. The whole reason they're airing all these stories on him is because it gets the highest ratings. Speaking of places where people call everyone racist and literally Hitler, Twitter. The saga of Elon Musk buying, then not buying Twitter has taken another wild turn as Musk did another 180 and re-offered to buy the company at his original agreed-upon price of $44 billion. Ooh, sorry, my neck is a little stiff. Covering the story is giving me whiplash. This was an abrupt change, of course, for Musk. How abrupt? Well, when he made this offer to buy Twitter, he was still in a lawsuit with Twitter over not buying Twitter. Twitter says it wants to close this deal, but the lawsuit still hasn't concluded. This is like a couple renewing their marriage vows while in the middle of a divorce. Maybe Musk decided to buy Twitter because the lawsuit could have gotten ugly for him. Texts of his were found in the discovery phase of the case and shared publicly. Or maybe Musk realized he needed Twitter to create a new everything app he called X. Based on previous comments he made, many assume X could be modeled after China's WeChat, a free instant messaging and social media app used by over 1 billion people globally, and also used by the Chinese Communist Party to spy on over 1 billion people globally. Or maybe he just did it for the lulz. This is Elon Musk, after all. Either way, this move caused Twitter shares to immediately jump 22%. And it caused CNN to immediately speculate that Trump could be back on Twitter by the midterm elections. Did I say speculate? I meant to say feverishly wish. Imagine what that would do for ratings. So, what do you think of the stories we covered this week? Leave your comments below. And be sure to support America Uncovered by going to patreon.com/America Uncovered. Contribute $1 or more per episode. We rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes. Or join our exclusive censorship-free social media community on Locals. Check out americauncovered.locals.com. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.